Hey, how's it going, everyone? T-Rob here with the Biz Pulse. I got a great show for you tonight. I know I say that every time we come on, but I've got Jacob Claver with me, and he's going to be talking about digital wealth management, creating and managing assets online, which is a huge thing in my life, but in a lot of people that are looking to, get into the digital world of financing, meaning like crypto and that sort of thing. So I'm excited to have him, and I'm not going to talk about him anymore. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in where he can introduce himself. Hey, Jake.
Hey Rob, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So glad to have you on. Excited just to tell us who Jake is, man, and kind of what you're doing and how all this came together.
Wow. Okay. I'll try to keep it short. So we'll just kind of go back 3 years. I've worked in industrial sales for a decade. Worked for a Fortune 500 company, scaling multiple sales teams for them in locations. Was acquired by another smaller company in a similar industry to do the same for them. Went to work for them, did well. Started consulting with business owners to improve their multiple prior to exit while I was working there. Eventually left, and I still do that. But at the same time, in 2020, when the market dropped because of COVID, I'd had some money that I was saving up for a home for me and my wife to buy, and I had my 401k from a previous employer. I'd gone to school for finance at UNT, and so I kind of stayed out of the market just because I thought things were overvalued, and the metrics that I was taught in school kind of showed that, PE ratio, Buffett indicator.
Yeah.
And so I saw that as my opportunity, kind of jumped in with both feet, pulled my money off the sideline, and rolled my 401k into a self managed IRA. Did really well in the markets. And then when things got back up, I looked at de-risk. And so in school, they said, get into commodities, gold, silver, real estate. So I was doing some research on that, and I was watching a debate between Peter Schiff and a Bitcoin guy. And I'd stayed away from Bitcoin. I go to zero. But after listening to that debate, I understood that it was software. And so after understanding what blockchain was and what it could do for things, I thought, oh wow, like it's going to move value like email. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me because banks are cumbersome. There's a lot of fees. And so I just dove headfirst into that industry and started doing a lot of research while continuing to do my consulting with the business owners. And so over the last 2 years here, I've made pretty good money in crypto in 2020 and 2021. This last year was kind of rough, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
But I've, in anticipation of an even larger liquidity event, I pulled together professionals all across the U.S. that are proficient with crypto and also very good at whatever niche there is that they do inside of a family office or what they would provide for that type of client. So could be CPAs, could be accountants, could be wealth managers, financial advisors, funds and foundations, estate planning, trusts, all those types of things. And it's odd to think this way, but I was like, okay, well, when this happens, I'm going to be really wealthy. Like, what do I need to do to make sure I don't mess that up?
Right.
And
Right.
so I pulled all these people together, and I've learned a lot along the way. And we'll talk about Beyond Broke. You'd mentioned that before, so that's my brand. And the mission statement for that company is to help 1 million people become financially free. So I've took myself from being, $50,000 in debt 5 years ago to doing pretty well for myself now, and learned a lot along the way. And I want to help other people do that. And we put together a mastermind behind that, in correlation but separate of the family office services that I provide. Um, and with that, it's a cool concept. It's not been done by other people, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to prove the model and kind of license this to other professionals that have communities or groups, and so that they can get into private investment. But what we do is We have a little over 100 members of the mastermind at this point. We'll probably cap that at 2,500 a year. But we have a DAO that we're going to form, like I said, in
Mm-hmm.
correlation with that, and we'll utilize SPVs to spin up funds that these people can invest in. And the cool part about it for me is we can involve retail investors. So most of the time when people invest in private investments, it's marketed publicly. They'll use a 506c type fund. They can have up to 100 accredited investors involved with it, and they can raise up to $100 million. Because of the form that we're choosing, we can involve up to 35 retail investors.
I just lost your audio there, Jake. Are you there?
Those are the few things that I have going on, and kind of how I got from where I was to where I am today in a short period of time. And I glossed over a lot there, but kind of gives you a high level view.
Very cool. So, um, I caught earlier that you went to North Texas, right? I mean, you're a Texas
Yes, sir.
man. Cool. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm in Texas myself, so I'm down in Corpus Christi. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I'm up
cool,
by
man.
Dallas.
So yeah, yeah, very cool. So tell me, like, with your mastermind and Beyond Broke, what what does that teach? I mean, obviously, it's teaching people how to invest um, in digital assets, but tell me kind of how that works. Like, what does that look like?
Well, so the mastermind is actually catered more toward traditional investments, whether that's real estate, all different types of real estate, whether it's multifamily, commercial, industrial, raw land development, residential, and that could be wholesale, short sale, flips, Airbnb model.
Okay.
And then we've got M&A projects that come across my desk just because of the industry I'm in, as well as roll-ups. So people will acquire a bunch of a certain type of business and sell out to a larger conglomerate and raise money to do that. And then we also have private equity and angel investing, all of which will be in the mastermind. We talk about crypto, obviously, because a large portion of the people that are in the mastermind, believe that they either will be wealthy or have become wealthy in crypto. And
Hmm.
so we actually just partnered, well, we're working on partnering, not yet, with MG Stover, who's a subsidiary of PolySign. And they will allow you to raise money for investments in kind or in crypto. So that'll be cool. But as far as the investments with crypto goes, you're still going to have to go through a traditional exchange in order to purchase that. The most compliant, most regulated exchange in the U.S. would either be Kraken or Uphold. Uphold has a money transmitter's license as well as securities license across all states and jurisdictions within the U.S. And so they also sell tokenized stocks on their platform, which are securities. So you would you would do some research, figure out, I prefer to invest in things that I think will have long-term utility, or
Hmm.
will be used in real application in the real world, and that's what will drive their price long term, and not this speculative market where the price is driven by, somebody wanting to sell at a higher price than what they bought it at. But that is what currently exists. And so until, blockchain and smart contracts and Web3 is implemented in a larger scale within the economy, that's kind of what we have. And also we have, almost no regulation here in the U.S. around this, which hinders innovation and kind of pushes people overseas to develop stuff there as well. So I'm hopeful that that'll change within the next 12 months as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I know that you do business coaching as well. What does that look like for you, Jake? I mean, is there a typical client that you help there,
Mm-hmm.
or what? What?
Yeah, so my primary demographic is somewhere between 40 and 60 years old. I help them prepare their business for exit. So a lot of the people that I work with, just because of my background in industrial sales, come from manufacturing or blue collar jobs. They could be any type of trade. I do have a few people that are outside of that are in other states, but the majority of the people I work with here in Dallas are in that demographic, and we work through eight different pieces that somebody that was acquiring a business would want if they were buying it, and also help the business owner transition out of the role of working in the business to working on the business and becoming an owner, so that it's an asset that they could actually sell, and they'll get a much higher multiple if they can go on a 3-month sabbatical without them having to be the one to run the business.
Okay. So are you helping with the appraisal side of it as well then? Values or?
I have brokers within my network. I got accredited through the Value Builder system. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not.
Yeah.
There's a few
Yeah.
different coaching programs, and that's kind of the one that I went through. I don't currently use them. I used their system for about a year, and then just transitioned to kind of my own model. But I normally work through. I come in and play 3 roles. So in the beginning, I'll kind of work through a CFO position. So I help them get their financials right, get everything ready for a third-party audit, look at cash flow, how we can become more liquid, collect cash faster, push out credit lines. I also pay for myself with tax mitigation. So I save you at least $10,000 on your taxes. Go through the last 2 years of tax returns that would have been prepared by your accountant or your CPA, and then also put together a tax mitigation strategy for you in the current year. And then that's, like I said, how I pay for myself. And then after we've got the financials ready to go, ready to be audited, third-party audit gives buyers a lot of confidence that they may not otherwise have when they're reviewing financials. And so once that's in place and we've got those things going, I kind of move over to a COO role. We go through SOPs within the business, and that's also where we try to remove the business owner and add staff. Normally when we're working through the financial piece, we'll try to figure out ways that we can optimize for, like I said, cash flow and liquidity. So look at, whatever the product offering is that they make the most money on. Can we raise margins somewhere? Can we cut costs? Can we put in a piece that's reoccurring revenue so that we have a baseline and we don't have, crazy wild swings in our income each month? And then, once we have some SOPs in place and we've got some more people that we've trained up, and again, this process takes anywhere from 12 to 36 months most of the time. At the end there, we would figure out who we were going to sell to in a strategic acquisition, and that's also one of the first things we talk about is, who are we going to try to position this company toward in order to sell it at the highest valuation. So it could be a competitor, it could be a vendor, it could be the employees, it could be a customer, it could be an adjacent business that you wanted to liquidate to, that they could cross-market their customers to your offering or service or product that you have. So we put that together, and then toward the end, that's when I work with brokers in my network to, facilitate the sale of the business.
Very cool, man. So, I mean, you do a lot of different things. I want to pick your brain a little bit on, because I know a lot of people, they don't understand generational wealth, right? And I think that's something you have to plan for, because I think what you said earlier, and I'm in the same boat, is like, what do you do when you have all that money or you have a bunch of money, like, right? It's so what is your plan, or can you share what people should be doing? I mean, I know it's, financial advice type deal, but for generational wealth, what is
Yeah.
your plan for that?
Well, I'll go ahead and just put the disclaimer in here for you. So none of what is said here is financial advice. Anything shared is all for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please always consult with your financial advisor, your attorney, or your CPA before making any financial, legal, or tax decisions. So there you go.
Thank you.
For myself, you can tell I've done that a few times.
Yeah, for sure.
I always start with a family mission when people come to me and create core values. So unless you have those things in place, you kind of have a loose framework and you really don't know where you're going or what you want to do with your generational wealth, quote unquote. So Pantheon thinking is something that I'm big on. You should be, if you really do come into a substantial amount of money and you do want it to exist, for generations to come, your grandkids, your great grandkids, you need to be thinking in 100-year time frames. And I know that's difficult to do with the rapid change in technology, and there's so many things that could happen in that period. But the one thing that you can control is your core values and the mission for your family, right? So if that's charity work, if it's a work in a specific space, if it's we do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it, integrity. Like I said, Pantheon thinking is something I always try to mention to clients. But we put together those lists, whatever that is for that individual, and then that kind of determines how we're going to structure their estate, what we're going to do with the money, how it might be invested, how we're going to structure the board so that certain people have to meet certain obligations in order to get access to the family bank. The people that I've seen that are successful with generational wealth put a board in place once they have a lot of money, and that does a couple things for you. So if you have a board and it's not just you making the decisions, you may have family members or friends or acquaintances come out of the woodwork and come ask you for money, right? And
Hmm.
you're able to then say, well, we would love to see your idea. Please put a pro forma together, and you can present it to the board. They're in on all the decisions. I don't make the final call. We work as a team of 6 or 8 people, however many people's on your board, in order to make sure we're making the best decisions for the money and our family. And then it removes some of that animosity that people might have toward you when you tell them no. And then sometimes they put together a good pro forma and they really do have a good investment, and they'll come present it to the board and you can invest, right? So,
Yeah.
and the other thing it does is it allows your children to view how you make those decisions with the money as they grow up. So they're able to sit in on meetings at some point after they're about 10, 11, 12 years old, and they can kind of understand what types of investments the family gets into. They can see how you guys analyze things. They can make sure that they're learning as they come up, and then that way they can kind of sit in that role and they're competent when they come of age and start getting access to that money. Another great piece that was brought to my attention by somebody that I have a podcast with, Byron Wolf. We have a Future Fortunes podcast together. His trust is structured in a way that whatever investment the family wants to invest in, they have to bring 20% of that capital to the table for whatever it is. So they've
Mm.
got skin in the game. They either had to go out and raise it themselves, or they've had to make it somehow in order for them to, get the loan of 80% from the family for whatever the venture is. And so I think that's a fantastic way of doing it as well. And again, there's just different solutions for every family, but it depends on what's going to work best for you. But I always start with what their mission is, what the core values of the family are, and then that'll drive the rest of those decisions.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense, man. Thank you for sharing that. And again, no financial advice, just our opinions here. So
Yeah.
do your own research. Uh, so I want to ask you because there's I have kind of a different mixture of people that watch this, and some people are trying to get in careers, right? They're just now starting out. Like,
Mhm.
what advice would you give someone that's maybe wanting to do what you do? I mean, I know it's been a long road for you, and you're still on that road, but is there something that you would tell somebody that's looking to maybe jump in on what you do?
Um, get experience. And that can happen a lot of different ways. So I'll give you the framework for how I look at life, and that's probably the best answer for this. And so this was actually shared by Patrick Bet-David. I don't know if you follow him or not, but he runs Valuetainment is his YouTube channel, and
Okay.
I've adopted this as kind of my outlook as well. So he says for the first 20 years, just don't f up was his words. Don't be in the car with the guy selling the dope. Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Put yourself around the wrong people at the wrong time. If you do have a kid early on, it's not the end of the world, but it does put you at a disadvantage in comparison to your peers. So just don't put yourself at a disadvantage within the first 20 years, which I was good about. I made some poor decisions, but they didn't end up putting me in a spot where I couldn't move forward. So I was blessed.
Yeah.
Um, the next 20 years, I kind of break into two sections. So 20 to 30, I would go work for somebody that does whatever you want to do and learn that skill set and stack skills. So Alex Hormozy has this analogy, and I'll steal from him since I stole from Patrick. He talks about maybe you go to school to be an accountant, okay, and you get that base knowledge, and then you go work for somebody that's doing something.
We just lost your audio there, Jake.
Go work for a firm that has done reverse mergers or something else that's specific, right? And you're just stacking these skills over that decade that really amount to a niche skill set that very few people have. And then you would be able to cater to a specific demographic that has a lot of money or needs your services, or even build your own business doing whatever that specific skill set is over the next decade. And so between 30 and 40, which is where I'm at now, that's what I want to do. I want to scale multiple businesses that leverage the skill set that I've developed over the last decade, and continue the personal development that goes along with that. Right? You're always learning. The industries are always changing. So be open-minded. You need to have biases in order to make educated decisions and pull the trigger on stuff. But at the same time, be willing to take in new data and shift if you need to. And then there's two more pieces to that where he talks about 40 to 60, you're able to reinvent yourself. You set yourself up financially. To that point, maybe you've got some businesses or assets that pay for your lifestyle, and you're able to pursue passions that you weren't able to when you were younger. And then the last 20 years of your life, or 60 to 80, or however old you're going to be, that's when you really just give back, either through philanthropic work, or maybe you become a politician like Trump did, or you're a mentor or helping others in some way. You're really just giving back for all the things that you've gotten in your life. And so I really like that outline. And I hope that kind of gives your viewers, some of my perspective, and a good guideline for, what some advice that I would give them if, I was starting back at 20 years old. I would go work for whoever, or whatever I wanted to do. I would figure out what that was, and then decide, I'm going to work for them and learn this skill set so that I can do it for myself one day.
Right. Yeah. And you have to remind people that you're getting paid to learn, right? And some
Right.
people are just it's hard for them to settle like that. But that I talk to my son about that all the time. He's 22, and I'm like, man, you're learning right now. You're getting paid to learn. So let's just soak it all in. Um, so hey, I always ask
100%.
this. Always ask this for everyone, Jake, is do you have a favorite productivity hack that you would share with people that, or maybe it's a routine that you do that helps you?
Yeah. So I was a bodybuilder for 10 years while I was doing industrial sales. Um,
Okay.
so I get up early. If you get up early, you get an edge on everybody else that's still sleeping. And I've moved that to quiet time for myself, where I can really sit down and knock out and things that are going to move the ball forward for me
Mhm.
on a daily basis in my businesses and my career, and with other things that I'm working on. So I know it sucks to get up at 4 a.m., especially if you didn't get to bed till 10 or 11 the night before. And I'm a big proponent of getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I believe that it's almost mandatory for you to perform at a high level. So the earlier you can go to bed, the earlier you can get up. Um, and you can learn to be a morning person, but not everybody's a morning person. Some people are night owls too. So it really just doesn't matter. I would just say, whenever you can really get quiet time for yourself, allocate that time every single day to toward whatever is going to move the ball forward for you in your business or your career, where you've got an hour or two where it's just quiet. You don't have the family, you don't have the kids, you don't have outside noise, people blowing up your phone, distracting you. Turn your phone off. Don't get on social media. Really just sit down and power through whatever you need to get done. And that's really what's been able to drive the ball forward for me the most over the past couple years is just setting aside that quiet time, either early in the morning or late at night to do that.
Mary, that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. So what's a 2-year goal for Jake? I mean, with Beyond Broke and Digital Family Office. I mean, do you have big goals? I mean, you mentioned it earlier, kind of what your mission statement was, but what are you looking to do? Is there a future goal that you're trying to meet?
Well, I'll throw it out here. We'll just put it out to the universe, right?
Yeah.
Um, 3 years ago, I wrote down my 10-year goal. So this is a little bit further out than the 2 year, but I like to think in decades. I find that the wealthiest people in the world and the most successful people in the world plan their life and then take daily action to make those things happen. So the 10-year goal for me from 3 years ago, so I got 7 left on this, is I originally had wrote down that I wanted to manage a $3 trillion fund with a T. And that's what the DAO and the mastermind will turn into. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. It's a little bit different than I had thought it was going to be in the beginning. But you put an idea out there, and then it evolves over time, right? So with these SPVs and the deal flow that we have and everything that's coming together, I don't think that it's unreasonable that we could have $3 trillion worth of liquidity in the DAO tied up in different investments and equities within the next 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece of that for me was I wrote down that I wanted to sit on the board of 10 of the most progressive companies in specific industries. And so when I first sought out to do this, I was like, okay, like who do I have to become? What do I have to understand? What value can I provide in order to incentivize people to put me in these type of positions?
Yeah.
And so that's really what I've been working on and continue to work on is being irreplaceable or extremely valuable. And my niche is just kind of fallen into the Web3 area because of my passion and where I made the money and where I like to spend my time learning. And with all the other professionals that I've surrounded myself with, I've also gained a pretty good financial prowess, and so hopefully that'll continue to snowball, and I'll be able to put myself in those positions in the next 7 years. So 2 year time frame, I'll just be continuing to double down on everything I've been doing, and I've got kind of some markers in place.
Mm-hmm.
But the other piece for me is a lot of people think that things work in a linear fashion, or maybe even steps. You look at a graph and you would like to think that things move from a 0 point up to 100 in a 45-degree line, right?
Yeah.
Over a 10-year period. But in reality, most things move through a parabolic motion. That's not the right term for this, but it drags along the bottom for a long period of time where it doesn't feel like you're making much progress, and then you start to see a little bit of progress over the next couple years, and then it just goes straight up where people have that overnight success, right? But really they've been grinding in the background for 5 or 7 or 10 years before that event took place that really catapulted them to that spot. And so in my analysis and kind of the goals that I've set for myself, that's kind of how I've laid it out, where um, it we're not anywhere close to the halfway mark, maybe the quarter or a fifth of what the overall goals are by year 5. But by year 10, it will have snowballed and catapulted me to the end goals.
Nice, man. Well, I mean, it's nice to have big goals and to actually, what I run into is people set goals, but they never look at them again, right? They just kind of like, oh yeah, I've got goals. so,
Yeah,
so it's nice that
I'm,
you're, reaching for them and measuring them where, like I'm moving forward and not
yeah.
backwards.
I actually have a process for this, and I can send you the spreadsheet on it, or any of your viewers if you'd like it. So I have a 10-year goal spreadsheet that breaks things down into OKRs and then allows you to scale things back from that 10-year goal in 6 different sectors of your life down to daily actionable items and habits. And so
Okay.
that's been a huge resource for me. I actually wanted to put together an app for it at some point. I don't know if I'll be able to do it or not, but I figure I will, especially with the progression with AI. I'd like to have an assistant that
Yeah.
reminded you of all the things that you said you wanted to do, even when you don't feel like you want to do them. But yeah, that's been a fantastic tool for me, and I review it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, and assess where I am, what my progress is, and make adjustments in order to make sure that I'm still continuing toward what I said I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're getting towards the end of the episode, but I wanted to talk to you because you brought it up about AI, because Web3 and AI, it's a huge deal right now. Are you utilizing AI in any of your business transactions
Every
in the
day.
daily? Every day. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I leverage Chat GPT a minimum of 10 times a day to spin up
Okay.
different content that I'm doing, and then I will, can sit down and type for an hour and a half. I can spin documents. I can spin up. I can ask it a question, and it kind of gives me a frame for things, and then I will go back and touch it up and manipulate it and put my spin on it. But it's made me much more proficient in that area. I've also used Tome. It will create a pitch deck or kind of like Canva. You can put together a
Mm-hmm.
slideshow with that. It's a great tool. And then I've got a couple other companies that I'm looking to work with. One of which is for the Dow. There's a gentleman that runs an AI hedge fund that will license that software that produces anywhere between 15 and 30% APY, independent of what the market does. It always produces that and has for the last 7 years. And then there's another gentleman that is I met on Super Bowl weekend in Phoenix. They have an AI that will analyze the logistics and supply chain within a company, and then break things down, and basically tell you what to do and how to optimize for things. So as an example, I'll tell you, there was a company here in Dallas that they were working with. This is a cement company, and they had 4 new locations that they were wanting to put in, and they brought that to the AI company and had them analyze it. And had they put those locations where they were going to and not where the AI told them to, they would have spent another $31 million last quarter.
Wow.
So it optimized a lot.
Yeah.
Saved them a lot of money.
Thank
But
you, AI. Yeah.
I would like to leverage. I'd like to leverage that AI in the Dow for investments in companies that we acquire through the investment vehicles, the SPVs. So get the financials from the company, look at what they're doing, and then leverage that software to optimize systems within the business to see how we can scale it the fastest, and also optimize for cash flow or valuation depending on what we want to do. And then once we're able to leverage that, we can see some pretty substantial gains on traditional businesses that we acquire, or even startups that we're working with. So those are just some of the ways I'm looking to use AI, and also use AI already on a daily basis.
Very cool. So had somebody post here, charitable remainder trust, please.
Yep. Okay.
So I don't know if they're wanting
Yeah,
you to explain what that is or what.
I'm happy to do that. I've had this brought up multiple times here recently. So again, this kind of depends on your situation. If you have kids, what you want to do, how you want to leave your money and your legacy. But it is a fantastic option to offset taxes. So let's say you have a liquidity event in crypto, you take profit, you had $1 million in Bitcoin. Okay. You can donate that $1 million that you made in Bitcoin to the charity trust, and you don't get taxed on it. And then you actually get another, what is it? It's $75,000 a year for the next 5 years that you would get to write off against your income. And you could use the cash or the Bitcoin inside the charitable remainder trust to generate that $75,000 that it pays you. And there are 2 different types of charitable remainder trusts. And the contingency is that when you pass away, the money that's left in the trust goes to a 501c that you designate. These are non-changeable and non-revocable. So you're going to have to, if you want to be like Bill and Melinda Gates and kind of circumvent the system, you're going to need to set up your charity, your 501c, before you file the charitable remainder trust.
Mm-hmm.
But you can actually leave it to a charity that you started. So, but the two different types. So I'll get back to that. There's one type that pays you first and then the charity, and then the other one pays the charity first and then you. And obviously the one that pays the charity first and then you're going to get better tax treatment for. But it's a fantastic option, and it can be leveraged depending on, like I talked about in the beginning, whatever your mission statement and core values are for your family and however you want to leave your legacy. It can definitely be a tool.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that question, XR Preston, and thanks for answering that, Jake. Appreciate it. So no financial advice. I'll say that again. So
Yeah,
you have to cover yourself, which is sad these days, but that's the truth. So I don't want to keep you forever, Jake, because I know you're in your truck doing this, and I appreciate you taking the time. But is there any books that you recommend that people should look at and enjoy?
Tax-Free Wealth by Robert Kiyosaki's CPA is a fantastic book. I would also recommend that you check out Patrick Bet-David's book, Your Next 5 Moves. That's probably been one of the biggest changers or biggest impacts from a book I've had in the last couple years reading them. Alter Ego is another great book. If you can't see yourself doing certain things, or you have mental blocks, it helps you, and this sounds crazy, but create an alter ego so that you can step into that role and be somebody else while you need to do that. Beyonce, a lot of very wealthy and successful people use that tool, high-end athletes, and I do that as well. So if you have like a pre-shot routine, if you're a golfer on the PGA, you see all them work through specific things before each golf shot. It's a trigger that puts them in a specific mindset so that they can perform. That's also a fantastic book, Alter Ego. But yeah, those three would be three that I would mention, and I think would be great if anybody wanted to read them.
Very cool. Well, anything else you want to mention or talk about, Jake? I mean, we've covered quite a bit. I don't want to keep you forever, but something we didn't talk about that you'd like to talk about?
You can check out the mastermind at beyondbroke.club if that's something that you're interested in. We're providing educational material on private investments as well as professionalism, and then you also get access to the investments that way, depending on what level you get into there. If you do have a digital asset liquidity event, you are welcome to book an appointment with me at digitalfamilyoffice.io, and then you can find me on all social media platforms using the moniker Beyond Broke or just my name, Jacob Claver.
Sounds great, Jake. Thank you for sharing, man. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great evening and get home here soon, huh?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you again for having me, Rob. I'll be listening to some of your other episodes. The ones that I caught were fantastic, and I really have enjoyed this.
Well, thank you so much, sir. Have a good evening.
You too, brother. Thanks.
Bye. All right. That was Jake. And, he's nice enough to pull off in his truck and do the interview, because I assume he was trying to get home. It was raining or whatever. So thank you, Jake, for doing that. So I wanted to just post his websites again, beyondbroke.com. Really a great website, by the way, with a lot of info, and then digitalfamilyoffice.io. So both of those are definitely filled with resources that you probably want to look at. And, for future planning, generational wealth, start thinking about things that you need to do or not do. Honestly, we do a lot of times think about what we need to do. We don't think about what we shouldn't be doing. Right. So hopefully you can take a peek at that. So that's it for me tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Biz Pulse. Please subscribe. Please share this. and reach out if you have someone you'd like to have on the show. Reach out to me, or if there's something you see that's like, hey, why don't you do this, or your show, needs you need to do this and make it better. I'm all ears. I just have fun talking to people and learning myself. So have a great evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Biz Pulse.